So in this lesson, we are going to be focusing on another data structure. And of course, we know that data structures are how we store data within a computer system. So we've looked before now at the very basic data structure, which is variables. And of course, we know that a variable can store one bit of information and it has one identifier, as in a variable name, to identify that data that's being stored. We've also looked at a list which can combine multiple variables with one identifier. And of course, those can be of different data types. Now, a set, which is what this one is focusing on. So a set is another data structure, but a data structure that has to have all of the same data types. So every single bit of data that we want to store in a set must be the same type. So we can think of a scenario, for example, if you want to store a group of students' names, that would be perfectly fine to be in a data in a set because it's all the same data type, as in it would all be strings. Imagine you want to store a character, so you just want to store one single character, then again that could be fine because that will be of the same data type. And also, the other thing to mention is that sets would store information in a random order. So if we want to be guaranteed of the way in which our data is going to be presented back, a set will not be an ideal data structure to use. And sets cannot include duplicates because it would just literally truncate the duplicate. So I'm going to show you that in a second, but I just want to go over this again just to make sure we're clear, not going too fast. So a set is a data structure, okay, and the data that within it will store things of the same data type. Yeah, so remember we talked about data types before. We have integers, we have Boolean, we have strings, we have character, and so on. Now with a set, we can only have every single element within our set, as in every single item that we store within it, can be only of the same data type. Yeah, so as I said, if we want to store someone's name, age, and their date of birth, and whether or not they've submitted their homework or not, all of that will not work for a set because we are dealing with different data types. For example, the name will be a string, the age will be an integer, whether or not they submitted their homework will be Boolean. So all of that information is set will not be ideal for. And data, the other thing that you need to make sure you remember for your exam is that data within a set is stored in a random order and it can be displayed in a random order. Okay, and it cannot store duplicates. So I'm going to show you then an example of how this would work in reality. So on W3 Schools, we have a set, an example here in Python. So we've got, again, we would write it in this way. We would have a name for our set, which is our identifier, in other words, like a variable name. And then we're equating it to a set. Now, a set in Python is written with its curly brackets. Okay, so, and then we have our element within a set, same as we would have in the list. And in this case, you notice that all of them are of a string data type. So we got, and they are of the same type of information that we're storing. For example, we're storing fruits here. We got apple, banana, and cherry. And we can print the content of a set like this using the print function and then the identifier name. So I'm going to just run this so we can see how this works. Right, so you can see here that our sets that said apple, banana, and cherry. And the comment here is just letting us know that when we look at this, we can see our output says banana, cherry, and apple. You can see that that is actually not the same order that it was inputted in. So this indicates really what we mean about the randomness of a set. So a set would display the information in a random order. So as you store in information into it, it can give you back in a random order. So if I run this again, let's see if it would change from the order we got here, banana, cherry, apple. Yeah, it has actually changed. So it's got now banana, apple, cherry. So we can see that one of the key things you need to remember in your exam is that sets can have random, it can display the information in a random order. Now, one other thing I'd like to signify here with the Python example is about duplicate values. Now, can a set hold a duplicate value? So if I'm going to copy this cherry option here, so I'm going to put the element again in there. So we now have cherry. In fact, let me put cherry again. So now we have, oh, I missed my, would have been an invalid syntax there. So now we notice that I've got cherry, cherry, cherry 3 times. So technically we should have cherry displayed here 3 times, but let's see if that would work. Right, there you go. So you notice that it's only displaying cherry for us once because a set cannot have duplicates. Yeah. So it sees that cherry is already there once, it just gets rid of the other 2. So if you imagine you're trying to store, let's say, a group of names, there is a possibility that you might have 2 people called Michael, for example, or any other name that is quite common. Yeah, let's say John, Mohammed, or any other name that's common. Now, you wouldn't then want to use a set necessarily to store that because you're going to have a problem when you have repeated data. So again, in as much as we said before, a set can be used for a character. Imagine you're trying to store abbreviated genders, like say M for male, F for female, and O for other. Now, if that's the case, you would imagine then that you would have repeated M's, and you would have repeated F's, and you have repeated O's. Again, does that indicate that a set will be ideal? A set will not be ideal for storing that data. So that's the key things you need to remember with a set. So a set is a data structure. We can put more items within our set. We can take items from our set. But you can go, and if you want to do more research on that, please go to W3 Schools. But in terms of what you need for your exam, I think so far that is all of the things that they've tested on. So